Okay, so in terms of like when to start with the ABS or like how to start with the ABS, um, I would say that the first thing is to kind of keep a running list of all your experiences. I actually did this starting from my first year of undergrad, and it doesn't have to be formal experiences. It could also be just like any kind of experience that has shaped you in any way, shape, or form, or has impacted you, whether positively or negatively. I also kept a running list of any mistakes I made, any failures I had, and what I learned from them and how I grew from them. And this will really help you not just for the application, but also later for the interviews. But in terms of the ABS, as you can see in the screenshot, this is Rama's screenshot. So she talked about like clubs, other, like she kind of had them organized in that format. And I also had something similar, but I did an Excel sheet and I could start tracking things because trust me, like by the time that you apply, like especially if you've been focused on medicine for maybe 3 years before you apply in your third year, for example, you will forget some details. So it's important that you actually start doing it from the beginning. And then the next thing is to just give yourself time with the ABS. That's the most important thing. A lot of students kind of misunderstand or think that it's not that hard because it's only 150 characters. But actually, that 150 characters, you really have to make them, you really have to make them as useful as possible. And so give yourself more time. And now, in terms of what to use, so this is the tip that Rama had, but I found it actually really helpful as well. So before you start writing your descriptions and everything, try putting it on the OMSAS website first to understand the layout, the character count. You're going to see that they ask for other pieces of information too, like the hours and everything like that. And your verifier will have to verify all the information. So just be prepared to have that. Next slide, please. Okay, perfect. So now for the general format of the ABS. So there are five categories sorry, six categories as you guys know, but like five ones that actually have something more specific. So the five like main ones are like the employment, research, volunteering, extracurriculars, awards, and then the sixth category is kind of like the other, which a lot of students actually underestimate. So we will be chatting about that soon. So in terms of the format, this is from Rama's application, or kind of like an example. I don't know if it's a real one, but so you can see that they ask for the description, they ask for the time, location. So it's nice to have it on a document or to have it on like an Excel sheet. Just have it somewhere so you can track it. And then when you're inputting it into OMSAS, it will be very easy to kind of just transfer it there. And also for when you are asking your verifiers, make sure that you give them all the information because I actually heard myself that like when a verifier is asked to verify something from the ABS, they can be asked to verify any component of the ABS. It doesn't just have to be the description. So keep that in mind, and make sure that they agree with everything and there's nothing there that's kind of catching them off guard. So yeah, that is the general format if anyone wanted it, but I'd recommend that you go on the OMSAS website and you look at it yourself in case this has changed from when we applied. Next slide, please. Okay, so when you are thinking of the ABS and like the responsibilities that you're supposed to be talking about, there's a few questions that Ram and I came up with that helped us both. So first is thinking of what skills did you actually develop in this role? It's okay if in the beginning you think of the more basic ones, like you were better at communication, you were better at teamwork, leadership, etc. That's fine to start with, but really try to dig deeper or even think of how did that skill improve? Like we all know how to communicate, but maybe a specific experience helped you improve or grow in your communication skills. So those are two different things. Being able to develop a skill from scratch can be highlighted and it's valuable in your application, but also being able to demonstrate growth in an existing kind of skill is also valuable in its own way. Sorry, the camera was just blocking. The second question is, and this is very important, this is what I kind of focused on as well, was how did you make an impact and how can you show that impact? So there are a few key ways to show impact, and you have to remember that the reviewers of the application are reading thousands and thousands of applications, as you guys know. So you want the impact to stand out and you want it to be digestible, meaning you wanted the reviewer to be able to easily and quickly understand what impact you had. And so a few ways to show that impact is first by quantifying, or second by adding a qualitative kind of characteristic. So let's start with the quantitative aspect. It's more clear. So if you said that you volunteered in an organization and you supported these individuals, maybe like low-income individuals, students, children, whatever it may be, maybe you could quantify the number of children or the individuals that you supported. If you fundraise money, you can quantify the amount of money. If you held an event, you can talk about how much money you had to secure through how many vendors or organizations to pull off this event. So that's another way that you can quantify as well. As for adding the qualitative aspect, I've seen students, like now that I've edited a lot of applications, I've seen students focus sometimes more on the quantitative and they neglect the qualitative. So qualitative is like all the other ways that you made an impact that is not really objective, and it can be more personal. So for example, I talked about how I volunteered at Sick Kids Hospital. And yes, I did say in the beginning, like the quantitative aspect, like I helped this many patients during my 3 hour shifts or something along those lines. But my second part of that description was the personal impact I made with each patient. So whether it was actually being able to connect with them or being able to use my language, which I speak like Arabic, for example, to kind of make the environment more inclusive. So I was very specific as to the action that I did and the impact that I had that was more personal and not necessarily quantifiable. And then the last thing, really quickly, is what you learn from the experience. It's hard to communicate in 150 characters, but if there is something that you felt was significant, or more importantly, something that demonstrates your growth in the role or in your mindset, like a mindset shift, you can talk about that. So, an example is I talked about pottery and how I love doing pottery. And what I learned from pottery is how it helped me embrace imperfectionism. So, that's another example. Next slide, please. Okay, I think Rama's here, so she can take over for the next few slides.
Okay, thank you so much, Joy, for the introduction and sorry for the delays. So now we're going to jump into the several OMSAS sections. So the first one here that we have that they're asking you to detail on is employment. And so I understand that people can sometimes complicate this and make it more, I guess, similar to the research portion, but it's important here that you look for any paid position. And, I'll kind of distinguish between the two right now. So when you're discussing employment, here you're trying to figure out what are the transferable skills that you learned at your place of work. So this is where you learn leadership, measurable impacts, things like this. So you could potentially say, I led this many projects and I ended up coming up with this for therapeutic avenues for cardiovascular disease. Even if you worked at a pharmacy, any sort of work that you did, do not discount the importance of it. All they're looking for here is that you're a well-rounded individual that is able to be trained. Because at the end of the day, medical school really is about how able you are to work with other people and learn new skills. On the other hand, when you're discussing the research portion, mostly here they're looking for academic rigor and your ability to come up with papers, be somebody who's well established within the published sphere. So here you can discuss what methodologies did you learn, what publications did you come up with, what kind of innovations do you have. And a lot of people may worry here because, research, some people aren't published, and that's totally normal. A lot of us were not even published when we, first got in. That's not an issue. You could even highlight different conferences that you went to. Presentations, for example, really important. I know in my year we had a lot of people present just to like the general profs, the TAs and stuff like this. They considered that to be a presentation. Anytime that you had to communicate scientific data, that counts under research, and you can kind of make something sound kind of a lot more rigorous than it was, just based on how you perceived it and how many people you presented to, what kind of technologies did you learn. So say you did a bioinformatics project, I employed R programming. What was the software that you did? What did you end up coming up with? So here, in my example, we were uncovering RNA-seq data, and we discovered insights of renal cell carcinoma. So notice here how this was like a three-prong approach. What methodology did I employ? What was the general purpose? And how did it have a broad impact? Research here, they're just trying to see, can you be part of that world? Next slide, please. Thank you so much. So in this portion, we're going to be discussing extracurriculars. And so here they're looking for consistency and growth. So not kind of like a one-off event, although if that's all you
I think we lost connection
once,
to
but I
Rima.
didn't.
Hello, Rima. Can you hear
Hi.
us?
Yeah.
Okay, you're back.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, just repeat what you were saying before. I think you had just started. That's when it cut off for me.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. So here I'm discussing the extracurriculars, and I'm trying to emphasize that you're looking for one time, something that maybe you started in your first year or an initiative that really stuck with you. And so this someone who was a general member to maybe the president or somebody who headed the finance, things like this. Emphasize here, this is where you can really bring in the quantitative aspect. So how many people were in this team? How many seminars did financial aspects we're responsible for. A lot of clubs will have a lot of funding. So if you were their VP of accounting, fantastic. Describe how much was really there. And then we're going to move on here. What's important is that you show that you have a passion project, not just the hospital volunteering, which of course everybody loves. Connection that you'd made, for example, say you were able to connect with people with different language barriers. That's something that you did on your own free time that really meant something to you. And so in this example, you would say, I raised this amount of money for whatever cause it was, and I engaged the local media. There's a lot of ways to engage local media. Even if you had like a social media page, that's something that you were able to kind of disseminate a certain amount of information, and it shows what skills you learned in that volunteering. Don't just say, I did X. Why did you do X? Who was impacted by you doing X? And what kind of initiatives did you lead that to? Try to make sure that it shows a long-term vision for who you want to be. Next slide, please. And so I know we're short on time, so these two are pretty self-explanatory. Awards, one big note on awards is that you need to explain the significance of them, not just what award I got, how many applicants were involved, what was this criteria based on, why is it an important award, how did I stand out? And then the other section, this one's kind of a free-for-all. A lot of people don't even write anything, but I really suggest that you use this opportunity to maximize who you are as a person outside of the categories they gave you. So for example, I used to play a lot of tennis, so I founded this tennis club, and I included that in my other section. It wasn't a job, it wasn't an EC, but it was something I did on my own time. People sometimes mention hobbies here, long-term exercises that they do. Maybe you have like a little book club within your local community. Something like this would be a great fit for the other. Think, what would you say if you're meeting somebody new at a gathering or an event? It's not academic, but it's something that means something to you particularly. And try to quantify this as well. Next slide, please. Great. So Joy and I have collaborated on this. So Joy, jump in if I miss anything. But here you're just looking to make sure that you quantify everything that you mentioned. So what percentage boost engagement? You can see this on your social media pages, number of events, number of students. Focus on the impact and not the job title. They will get a lot of the same job title. Research assistant, everybody's a research assistant. So try to make sure that it's clear what you did there, and try to have a balanced number of experiences. So like I was mentioning earlier, UOttawa allegedly sometimes only looks at the only top 3 for category. So you need to be strategic about this. Your longest term achievements, your highest impact, the ones that are the most unique, things that you don't think they'll see in another applicant that weaves a story together about yourself. Verifiers and honesty, this goes without saying, but these people get many applications every single year. They're pretty seasoned at figuring out what makes sense, what's reasonable. Don't overinflate your time just for the sake of it. Make sure you're able to honestly talk about it, and the rest will fit in later on. Oh, and use your comments to describe your relationship to the verifiers if you have time. Next slide, please.
Oh, sorry. One thing to add that I have a few other like kind of tips for you guys. One is if there's an activity that you did that you felt like you were really intensely committed in, or you've contributed a lot of hours, a lot of years, there were occasions throughout my ABS where if it was really significant, I would actually mention it in the description briefly. So if I spent maybe like there were some activities where I would do them for 10 years. If that was the case, I would say dedicated 10 years to whatever cause it was, or dedicated over 1,000 hours to whatever cause it was, because you can't always rely that the reviewer will be looking at all components and like registering which one is which. So that was just something that I did to also show impact and communicate it. And another 2 tips I have for you guys is try using present tense if you're running out of characters. I use present tense throughout my entire ABS and it was fine. Also use abbreviations. And the second thing is try to be very specific about the verb that you're using. So you can say led, you can say collaborate, all those things, but you could also be more specific as to what kind of leadership. Were you pioneering something? Were you spearheading an event? Were you just assisting with something? So be very clear about what the word is to make the impact more clear as well.
Absolutely. Kevin, do we have time for the example, or should we just leave it in the slide deck?
Yeah, you have time.
Okay, sure. All right, so Joy, jump in, or maybe you want to get started. I don't mind either way.
Yeah, I can get started. So this is an example that we came up with. So It says you are a VP of events at a school club where you hosted science workshops. That's just like the general description. We're going to show you 2 entries and why one works and why one does not work as well. Next slide, please. So this is the first entry. The description that we have here is led workshops to engage participants and boost satisfaction. So, at first glance, it may seem like, okay, you said what you did and like what the outcome was, but it's very vague. And again, think of the reviewers' perspectives. They are reading thousands of applications. This does not stand out in any way, shape, or form. It tells them what you did, and maybe if it was in a conversation, it would be fine, but not in an application for medical school. So there's no specific numbers or very specific outcomes provided. It doesn't really explain how exactly you as the candidate or as the person doing this activity made an actual difference. So it just kind of says it very generally. Also goes back to using the words lead or led. You can still use them, and we're going to use it in the second entry, which is like the good entry. But if you can, try to be more specific. There's a University of Saskatchewan website that has like a list of common words and then other words that are like more specific. So they have like the word lead, and under it they have a bunch of options for synonyms but that are more specific. So I use that a lot as well. And also there's weak action that's demonstrated here because the description doesn't really have strong action verbs or any clear responsibility. So let's move on to the second entry now. So this is the updated description. Rama, you can take over and you can let us know what to do. That would be best.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Joy, for the awesome description of why entry 1 wasn't perfect. But here, this one is you led a team of 5 students to organize 10 workshops for over 200 participants, resulting in a 65% increase in engagement. I know that it's wordy, and I understand that there's a lot of different metrics. You don't by any means have to have this many. And even if you had changed the verb, that would be, even better. But you see here how I can now envision it. I can really picture who this person is and what the involvement level was. So it's good because it's specific. It shows an impact. So here you've described the increase in engagement. And sometimes it's hard to quantify these things. Even if you had just said, last year we had 30 participants, now we have 40, that's an X% increase in participants. That's a very easy way to just go about it. Even ballparking is fine. It's action oriented. It uses a strong verb like led and organized. It's also results oriented. So it shows the result and what the candidate's contribution was to the team's success. It makes you look like a team player here because you're leading this group of students. It shows me who you are as an individual. So is that clear to everybody why the second one was better than the first? Please feel free to ask questions, but I think this was the last big slide that we had.
All right, so thank you both to Joy and Rema for coming on. Joy is actually a consultant on our platform as well, so you can message her if you would like reviews for your ABS. Then hey, we'll message Rema, see if she wants to join tonight as well. But are there any questions? If you have questions, you can put them in the Q&A